Hello, everyone. We are about to start this year's keynote for Cloud8 Summit. Sago, do you want to say something or do I start immediately? I guess I start immediately. Okay.
You start, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so welcome to this keynote about the state of IT automation. I'm happy to kick off this year's Cloud8 Summit. It's a pleasure to be here. And my name is Heiko. I'm head of marketing automation enthusiast at ScriptRunner. And yeah, I think we have an interesting topic today to cover, to talk about the landscape of IT automation as it is today. I will cover a little bit about where we're coming from, and also we're going to take a look into the future. And before we start, a little bit about myself. So my name is Heiko. Head of marketing, automation, PowerShell enthusiast. You will hear quite a bit about PowerShell throughout this session as well. And I'm in the IT industry for quite some time, 30 plus years, started as an administrator, did all kinds of consulting, product management, business development, all kind of stuff. My first automations goes back to mainframes. Rex was or still is a language for big IBM machines. Batch files, of course. Enhancements to batch files like Kickstart. Maybe the more let's say experienced people in the audience might remember that. Things like Batchman, and then of course VBScript, VBA. That was kind of where I started with automation. And then 2007 happens when Exchange included PowerShell. This was my first experience with PowerShell, and by that time I have to admit I was not the biggest fan. I was actually kind of wondering why something like PowerShell becomes part of Exchange. That opinion changed pretty quickly after I had to make some changes to a couple of machines at the same time. And then, of course, it clicked that something like PowerShell, of course, is a great technology to do things in bulk on many machines for many different systems, users, or whatever. And using PowerShell more or less ever since. And I'm also a co-founder of a PowerShell user group, Rhein-Neckar. You can find the user group on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Meetup, and we are online only. So if you want to learn more about PowerShell, feel free to follow us. We typically have every quarter we have an online session, and also the previous sessions, they are all available online as well. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on LinkedIn, or X, sorry, it's called X now, I heard. So, and you can also find me on LinkedIn, reach me via email. I also have a couple of scripts and presentations on my GitHub repository. And as mentioned, we have also the recordings of our user group on YouTube. All right, so let's dive into the topic with a little quote here. Automation is good so long as you know exactly where to put the machine. It's out of the book The Goal, and I guess it kind of captures the importance of automation, but also, of course, the fact that, okay, we should know what we do, and we should know where to put and how to implement automation. And also, of course, thinking about what kind of challenges come with IT automation. And all of this is kind of part of what I want to present today. Which brings me to the agenda. And so I will start to talk about, okay, why IT automation is important. There's a couple of studies, latest infos from multiple sources we will talk. Then we're gonna talk about, okay, what kind of challenges come with IT automation, meaning then of course what is a good way to implement an IT automation strategy. This is where I'm also gonna talk a little bit about how our solution fits into that landscape, and then we're gonna take a look into the future, which kind of is already here. So we're gonna look into AI, agentic AI things, as we go along this session. And let's start with the first topic, the importance of automation. Before we do that, a brief history of IT automation. So we're gonna go through a couple of decades quickly. So if we look at it, when kind of IT automation started in the 50s and 60s, it was all about batch processing, punch cards, things of that nature. So IBM at that time was, of course, the thing with their machines. That continues to be the case also in the 70s, where mainframes came into the picture as some still relevant, kind of, or still at least working today. We had job scheduling systems, and again, there was IBM, but then there was also, for example, DEC coming up. We had batches, the first shell scripts that came to be. Then the 80s was all about personal computing, where task scheduling became a thing. Like in Office tools, you could start doing micros, Lotus 1 to 3, we had batch files, all kind of still in the beginning of automating, but already, of course, helpful. Then in the 90s, things shifted a little bit. So network and system management became important, cron jobs, and scripting languages became more of a thing. So here again, a few examples: VBScript, Bash, Python, of course, started to become relevant, and which continues, of course, until today. Then the 2000s, virtualization, kind of early cloud adoptions happened. Virtual machine management became a big thing, configuration management, and then, of course, further scripting, which means, of course, also the introduction of PowerShell, which was, I think, especially in the Microsoft world, an important aspect, important technology that came to life. 2010s, cloud computing became more and more important. DevOps became important. We talk about cloud automation, DevOps, building pipelines, containerization started to lift off with things like Docker, and then, of course, Kubernetes, things like Terraform. And when we look at the current state, it's obviously all about advanced orchestration with AI, with agentic AI, low code, no code landscape, up to hyper automation, all kinds of different solutions that are kind of already available. And of course, the landscape is ever evolving. So exciting times in the automation space, of course, in the AI space in particular. And so just this as a brief history. And some rumors say that things like PowerShell was even a thing quite earlier, but I guess that's maybe not really true. But anyway, but a good example of using AI to creating funny pictures. But talking about PowerShell, so in case you are already using PowerShell, or you are thinking about using PowerShell, we're providing a lot of free PowerShell resources, cheat sheets all around PowerShell when it comes to using PowerShell with Active Directory, which actually has its 25th anniversary this month. And I guess it's still a thing, even though we're talking about cloud and all other things. But yeah, Active Directory obviously is still a thing. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, there's a cheat sheet for that, or for Teams in PowerShell, for Exchange in PowerShell. MS Graph, of course, kind of a moving target still, but we were brave enough to put out a cheat sheet that will be updated quite frequently because Microsoft is making changes in this direction quite often. And last but not least, security, of course, important topic as well. So there is also a security ebook for PowerShell. If you are interested in that, feel free to go to our scriptlearner.com page, and there is this PowerShell goodies page where you can get all of this resources, and they're really helpful companions when it comes to using PowerShell in your daily business. Okay, but now back to the actual topic. Why IT automation is important. So here is a graphic from Gartner quite recently, where the question was, what are your top challenges when it comes to IT organizations? And yeah, some interesting, I think, facts here: availability of resources, number of people, obviously a topic. How does this relate to IT automation? Of course, if you automate as much as possible, you can have the people concentrating on more, let's say, relevant and innovative tasks. So you can free up resources, and you can even manage more, maybe even more complex infrastructure with the same amount of people. Which also leads, another topic I'm going to come back to later, to typically more happy employees when they don't have to do tasks over and over again at the same time by, for example, clicking through interfaces instead of automating it. Managing technical depth, I think, is another topic here that of course means, yes, managing, administering all this kind of environments that are around, and that maybe keeps organizations from coming to the next step, which is meaning enabling innovations and creating new ideas, because you can only do that if you have the time to do that, which again, of course, is a great point for IT automation. And then, of course, also when it comes to the skills for doing things manually comparing to automating stuff. Some other foundings from Gartner, for some recent publications from Gartner, where they talk about, okay, in 2025, 80% of operational tasks will require skills that less than half the workforce is trained in today. So the question here becomes, okay, is this something? Are these tasks that needs to be done by humans, or can it be automated? Can automation help to reduce the complexity for these new skills, for these new tasks, for these new challenges that come with new technologies? And also another quote here, that by 2027, 70% of organizations will have product-oriented automation initiatives. So it will become obvious that in all kind of industries, automation based on specific requirements, maybe even based on specific regulations, will become much more important. That will, of course, increase the pressure on the IT departments. And then, again, of course, here, IT automation can help a lot to make as much as possible automatic, streamlined, even enable you to delegate maybe tasks and processes to people outside of IT in a secure way. And the last topic here, also pretty interesting, is more related towards the HR and the employee experience, where it says that if organizations are not able to meet the requirements, not only the monetary and salary aspect, but are they are the employees in a space where they can grow, where they are satisfied, where they can see results in their work, and that will lead to more people leaving the company. And again, of course, and from this perspective, also IT automation is an important tool or strategy, rather, to make sure that you have people in the IT teams that are really happy with what they do, and they can create results. Another result here of this is from Broadcom, I think, where it's about, okay, what are actually the expectations if you start implementing IT automation? And yeah, it's a mix of different benefits that people see or expect when they start using IT automation: better customer service, more creative strategic thinking, which comes back to the things I mentioned earlier, increased investment in the business, higher revenue, but also then better collaboration, more productive teams, and again, happier employees, which relates to the thing that just mentioned when it comes to employees not being happy and leaving the company. And also based on that, this survey asked which organizations already have enterprise-wide IT automation strategy in place. And here you can see, yes, there are some who already have that, some are on the journey, and surprisingly, they're even at the top of the chart here saying we don't have it and we don't even plan it, which I think is not the right way of going forward. But well, maybe they will learn it the hard way, to what it means to not go into IT automation, because doing everything manually is definitely not, I guess, not the future. And this also shows a recent Spiceworks report, which is online available. We can really recommend it. It's not only about IT automation, it's about the general landscape in IT automation. And so if you go to the Spiceworks webpage, it's available here. And also in this study, it says that the adoption of IT automation technologies is not only already in many companies, which is in this case 50%, but additional 80% plan to implement it in the next 2 years. And from what I see, this percentage, obviously the companies that we talk to, I guess this number is even bigger, but it's definitely in the top 3, which I think is interesting, besides all the real, let's say, very new stuff like 5G, like AI. IT automation obviously plays still a very super important role. And it's also a result of this survey from Spiceworks is it pays off. So here they ask companies that already have started to implement technologies, in this case about, for example, IT automation, and was it worth it? And from all these emerging technologies, but I'm not even sure if IT automation is emerging because it's there for quite some time. But anyway, so obviously the return of investment in IT automation is higher, even higher than AI, edge computing, Internet of Things, or the blockchain, 5G, and so on. So I think this is really a testament to the fact that IT automation is definitely an important topic, and it helps every organization. And so if we look at it, what it means if you're not automating, just to go through that quickly, of course, if you do everything manually, everyone does it differently. You don't have a standardized process. You are not really able to monitor the process, the tasks. Security becomes an issue if everything happens decentralized and everybody is doing it differently. And from the IT perspective, of course, this also means that it all has to be done by the IT when we talk about onboardings, when we talk about deploying new VMs, things like that. So no delegation means that depending on the task and the number of people, processes might be delayed, which leads to missed LAs. SLAs, service level agreements. On the other hand, yeah, employees are wasting time on manual tasks. They might not be the happiest one. Projects that might be important to improve, innovations might be delayed. So innovations might not be there in time, which at the end might lead to, yeah, failed business goals because, yeah, the competitor might be faster than you and more innovative, and then, yeah, you're losing business. So I guess this all shows that really IT automation is an important task, an important strategy that every organization, large and small, should consider implementing it. And but yes, there are a couple of challenges that I want to also address here, and that's, for example, integration. So if you have a complex infrastructure, what do you do? How many IT automation solutions do you want to implement? What are the most important platforms or the ones that you want to start to automate things? How can you solve the scalability issues? Meaning, again, where to start? What are your top tasks and processes, or maybe the most annoying ones that you want to, or need to, or you want to automate? And that scalability also, of course, has to do with the IT automation infrastructure that needs to grow while you're adding more and more tasks and processes to the solution. And yeah, one thing that I think is really important to avoid is tool overload, meaning you have all kinds of different systems, and to try to find a solution for each and every platform, each and every tool, of course, you will end up in a problem in itself by having too many IT automation tools. So that's, of course, a topic here as well. And that also has to do, of course, with security, because the more tools you try to implement, the more difficult it is to have a real secure end-to-end process, depending on what you would like to automate. And last but not least, siloed teams is often a challenge, where, let's say, the Exchange team is starting to implement a solution for automation. Then the Azure guys might go for another one, and maybe then there is a VMware team, or there is an AWS team, and they all try to solve the same problem and end up with some siloed products, some siloed scenarios. And that's, of course, something that also needs to be addressed here. And that brings us to, of course, the topic of how to implement an IT automation strategy in a more successful way. And obviously, it's a project. So it's really about starting to define the goals that should also align with the business objectives. So what's the strategy of the company? What is important to improve the service? Like, the expectations that comes from the management perspective. What are the KPIs that you want to measure at the end to find out if you have successfully automated or not? And then of course it's about looking at the current infrastructure, the current processes, to find out what are the ones that you want to, or you need to automate as priority one, which also means it doesn't make sense to automate something that's already broken. So optimizing processes before you start automating is always important. So look at the processes, find out how it can be optimized, and then move on to define the requirements that help you to find the right solution or solutions. I think it's what we see in many organizations is that there is not one solution that fits to everything. But with the goal of having the least amount of products in place is definitely important, so that that's even maybe the interplay between these solutions is as easy as possible. And then, of course, we're talking about costs as well, and the manageability of all kinds of products that you might want to implement when it comes to the IT automation. Yeah, and then of course you need to develop a roadmap that helps you to make sure, okay, what is priority one, what is priority two and three, how you're going about this implementation, what's the milestones, what's the expectations, things like that. And that of course means you have to have ideally an IT automation team that is maybe across different areas of your company, your organization. So not just the people in IT, but also, of course, include people from the line of business to better understand their need when it comes to IT automation, or your help desk teams, for example, things that we see quite a lot in our landscape, that IT help desk, service desk teams can benefit a lot from IT automation, in the sense of them being more autonomous to solve problems without relying and waiting until someone from IT can do something like changing group memberships, deploying new software, starting an onboarding process, offboarding process for users, things of that nature. And then, of course, design and develop your processes according to your policies. There might be regulations that you have to look into depending on the industry that you're in. Then of course starting to pilot the solution, and then once you're going into production, of course you need to ensure security and compliance and scale continuously, and improve and add new scenarios as you go along. Maybe because maybe additional teams might join this initiative, or new companies might become part of your organization, so you will continuously improve that. And then, of course, the question becomes, okay, what are the solutions out there? So what can I use? And this is, I try to put in IT automation solutions here. It's actually, of course, it's just an excerpt, because the area of IT automation is, there are a lot of solutions out there in different areas with different positionings. They're solving different problems. So this is just a quick overview about what's out there. So starting with workflow and process automation, which of course means Power Automate when we're looking into the Microsoft landscape, but there are many other solutions: Zapier, UiPath, Jira, ServiceNow, Automation Anywhere. When it comes to infrastructure as code, of course, we have things like Bicep, we have things like Terraform, Pulumi, SaltStack. I also sneaked in PowerShell DSC here, because it's also kind of a way to have a declarative way of defining and creating infrastructure. So I guess that's legitimate to put it in here as well. And then, we have the script-powered IT automation. That's where we as script runner are part of, which includes things like, of course, PowerShell, Python, Bash, Azure Automation, but of course there are many other solutions out there as well. Then more and more important, we have all this AI assisted IT automation, CoPilot, obviously very important here, but many other vendors, especially in this space, are on the horizon or already existing in IBM, in AWS, Google, and so on. And then we have the configuration management and orchestration, where you can see things like Ansible, Puppet, and Chef. And so, of course, again, it all comes down to what is your priority one? What are the things that you want to solve? And what are the right platforms that maybe have some overlapping, or technologies that are overlapping through all these different categories of IT automation? And what I would like to do now is just quickly show you how we address these different areas when it comes to the challenges that I mentioned earlier. So, for example, the integration challenge, which means, okay, you might want to start to automate things in the Microsoft space, but you might also have teams that run VMware or AWS, or you want to integrate processes with things like SAP or Jira or ServiceNow or Boomi or Ivanti or whatever the platform might be. So here, of course, it's really helpful to look for something that is able to integrate into all of these different areas, so you're not ending up with too many tools, too many solutions here, which also then comes to the scalability challenge, where you might want to start with your top processes to instantly start to automate and streamline them. But then, of course, you also need to manage and monitor it in an efficient way, meaning you want to know what's happening. You want to see who triggered an onboarding process, for example, who changed permissions or settings in your virtual environment, things like that. So all that needs to lead to a consistent platform that also ensures that you are applying and you are working according to your regulations, and to have a solution that is not only helping your IT teams, but also your help desk, service desk teams, and maybe even implementing self-services. And on the infrastructure side of things, it's about how fast do you get to the first results? How many different types of automation processes and tasks can you trigger? Meaning, okay, so you want to delegate tasks, but maybe you also have to have these scheduled automations for housekeeping processes. You want to have event-driven automations that are triggered by maybe systems like ServiceNow, like from Empower Automate, from a Jira platform, for example, to have a seamless integration that grows with your growing demand when it comes to your processes and tasks that you would like to automate. And to address this tool overload topic I just mentioned, of course, so the worst thing would be if you would try to automate and manage every system individually, because that really will end up in this zoo of tools, which is completely unmanageable. And so the goal, I guess, here oftentimes is to make sure, okay, you'll find something that helps you, maybe not in all platforms, but in many different platforms. So you have a consistent way of processing your automation, but also monitoring it in a central way. And also something that helps you to adapt to an IT strategy shift that might happen. And that's one good example. But what I see right now is VMware, thanks to Broadcom taking over VMware and I don't know, increasing license prices by 10 times or even more. Organizations think about moving away or reducing the workload on VM, and maybe you introducing things like Nutanix, Hyper-V, or other platforms, and then having something that really helps you to say, okay, I can use the same platform, the same IT automation platform for managing my VMware environment. And when we move to something else, it's still there for me, and I can continue to use what I'm already using. So I can use it even if the IT strategy might shift. I think is an important topic here as well. And then, yes, of course, security, which means, yes, having a role-based model to make sure to enable who is able to automate and trigger which processes, so you have a secure and reliable process is a given, I would say. That includes integrations of things like OpenID, password servers, so to create a secure end-to-end automation. Reporting and monitoring, extremely important. So because you want to know what's happening, especially if you think about automating in the sense of also enabling and delegating tasks. To help desk, for example, you want to make sure the things happen the correct way, and all that helps you to, to fulfill all the different regulations or compliance that you might need to have to consider depending on your industry and or the regulations that come from within your organization. That's definitely an important topic. And when it comes to the silos, of course, again, a single platform or a limited number of platforms, of course, is important to really be able to implement IT automation on an enterprise level in a way that every IT operations team can benefit from it. So again, so that not VMware people and the AD people and Exchange people and the Azure Microsoft 65 people, they are all using different tools. And so to have it streamlined, I think here is really important, because that means that you end up with a seamless and scalable end-to-end automation system that is really, really in the long run, I guess, the way to get the most out of IT automation and not implementing island solutions again that don't talk to each other, or where it's just good for one team and for one platform. So that's the goal, or should be the goal, I think, for whatever you consider to go forward when it comes to IT automation. And so ideally, if we come back to this circle that is red at the moment, so if you have an enterprise-wide IT automation strategy in place, so ideally you have standardized the processes, you have optimized the processes, you're able to monitor and create reports about all the activities about these tasks and processes, and then to have it in a secure way is of course key here. And that also means that you then are able to start to delegate and to enable, for example, help desk teams, service desk teams, or maybe even kind of business users to trigger specific tasks in a secure way so that they can solve their problem much faster. And of course, that means that you are going to have your service level agreements fulfilled, or maybe even improved. So the people in IT have more time for innovations and projects, and hopefully your employees are more motivated. And we know that there are people that are happy with clicking through UIs because, well, they do it for the last 20 years, but that's definitely going away even sooner than later, because given the growing complexity when it comes to IT, doing things manually is really not the way to go forward. So for people who are then involved in projects, in innovations, of course, they will see that's the wrong direction, that they will finish their project in time. There will be innovative, so ideally outperform the competitor. And finally, that will lead to a better business of the whole company, which is, I think, an important task here. And that's the kind of the final goal. Even if we are talking about IT, of course, it's not IT for the reason of IT. There are always business goals involved in that, and again, IT automation obviously is a very important part to reach these goals. But so once you have done all that, then of course it's about, okay, we should maybe we should, I guess, measure the success of IT automation. And there are, of course, different areas how that might be important for you when it comes to is the IT automation implementation that we choose, is it successful or not? Does it work? So there you have this operational efficiency, where it comes to data like how long does it take to fulfill a task? What is the could you reduce the time that it takes to resolve a problem? Or maybe ideally, maybe it's done fully automatically. The number of tasks that you have automated, of course, can be a good measure here. When it comes to cost savings and ROIs, you can calculate how much or how less hours you needed to solve problems or to trigger tasks and processes. So this is the typical, let's say, cost saving, how much time and money do we save by automating, which is definitely an important part of the equation here, I guess. Then scalability and performance is really about, okay, how fast is how could you improve the speed of your processes? How many tasks could you implement in step one? How easy was it to implement additional tasks and processes into the system? Does it improve the uptime of the systems that you manage, no matter if it's on-prem or hybrid or in the cloud? Does it reduce errors, the human error factor, which is of course always an important part here? And does it help to fulfill compliance regulations? So let's say you have your industry where you have yearly audits. So are the auditors happy with the reports that you can present to them when they ask specific questions about, okay, how did you optimize, or how is your process when it comes to specific data? Yes. Margo, any question? No. Okay. All right. And then, of course, last but not least, user satisfaction. Are your users who are part of, number one, the IT automation itself, happier? And is the service better for the users that you have in your organization? Because all the things that we just talked about happen to them. The tickets get closed faster. Everything happens quickly. It's more easy to use, and that really can also have, of course, an impact when it comes to the business processes. So yeah, so this is important, right? So finding out how you want to automate, look at the challenges, and also at the end measure what you did and what you plan to do, because that tells you obviously if you are on the right track or not. So with this, let's take a quick look also into the future. And the future is obviously agentic AI. So from all the technologies that we used to have and we still have, agentic AI is here to take automation onto a next step, which means autonomous decision making. So it's not the human factor everywhere. The human factor still plays a role in overseeing the processes, but being able to automate it in a much different way, so that incidents can be solved automatically, that you have a context-aware optimization of the processes without manual intervention, which also means, of course, we're talking about proactive maintenance, enhanced security, and policy enforcement. And also, of course, the self-service IT is here a great opportunity to use agentic AI to automate tasks and processes even more. And if you look at the landscape right now, so you have AI agents right now. So, for example, what OpenAI just started a while ago, and now they're adding agentic AI. Means agentic AI in this case means that you don't have one streamlined process. You have different agents with different tasks, different knowledge, and they completely autonomous. They work together to solve a problem. So you start by defining what you want to do, and then these different agents take care of it, just like a specific team of people nowadays. And here is a picture of an interesting article from the Berkeley College about how these agents kind of work together, what kind of data structure and concept they're using. And we'll not go into details here, but definitely it's about what they can do is they can assess what is necessary, they can plan, execute, and last but not least, they can learn. And the way that they can do that is, or the way that you can implement that either is in a single agent architecture or a multi-agent architecture. And just as a kind of a thought experiment, how a user onboarding could look like in the future. And again, I will not go into all the details here, but imagine you have an agent that is realizing from the HR system, okay, there are new people being hired. Then there is an agent that defines what kind of role this person needs to play. And then you have an agent that is actually doing the provisioning, then another agent that takes care of the role-based access policy, all the security compliance stuff, triggering the software deployment, and maybe also triggering a process that makes sure that the right hardware is delivered. Then guiding the person, the new users with an onboarding guide. And then also being able to help these new hires with different agents that help them throughout the onboarding process. And last but not least, again, having a feedback agent, a compliance agent that takes care of the logging of the whole process and the learning of maybe also where things maybe didn't work. And so that is just, kind of a world that I guess we will see again rather sooner than later. But then, of course, also again the human factor is important because you need to have human oversight so that everything really works according to your plans and your regulations. Yeah. So with this, I kind of come to the end of this keynote, coming back to this quote. So I hope I could give you a little bit of an insight and some guidelines, some inspirations maybe about how to put automation in production and into life in the right way. If you want to learn more about how we do this with our script runner solution, we have a white paper available, maximizing IT automation, that helps you with many of these topics I mentioned throughout this session here. And yeah, last but not least, very important as well, IT automation is a team sport. So it's really about collaborating with all the different teams, not just IT, to get the most out of it. It's always a combination of people and technology to be able to implement IT automation successfully. And it's a journey. So it's a constant learning process, adaptations, especially in the age of AI. We see weekly changes here. So what I think is important here as people of our business being in IT, so to really lead this change and being the people who inspire people, organizations to go forward with the new technologies as they arrive and as we can start to use them. And yeah, think big, start small, scale fast, I think is always a good approach. So look at the big goals when it comes to IT automation. Take the time to identify the most important tasks that you want to automate, and then create a plan, as we talked about the different steps of this automation processes. Yeah, and so if you want to get in touch with me, maybe talk about the topics that I covered today, feel free to get in touch on Twitter, LinkedIn, via email. I'm happy to talk to you about IT automation or IT in general. And with this, I say thank you. Thanks for attending my session. And now, of course, all the other great sessions that will follow. Have fun, learn a lot, be inspired. And thanks again to Dragul for organizing that. That's really awesome. We are supporting that for many years, and it's a really great event. And thanks to everyone for joining. Have a great day, and keep on automating.